It's 8:43 at iFiber One News Radio, and a good morning to you. I'm Jeff Slakey, and I'm happy to have in studio Don Pannell for some riveting radio real estate. Good morning, Don.
Good morning, Jeff.
How are you doing?
Preparing to be riveting.
I am looking forward to being riveted. What do we got going on here today?
We'll have a listing to show you. This is a fairly new one. I just listed it a week ago yesterday, and it is a great house. It's right in town, so right up behind, kind of on the way up Alder Street there, past the library.
Okay.
And off to the left, you probably noticed there's three houses in there, kind of on a little frontage road, and they're up on a kind of a hill overlooking the city. So this is the middle house of those three. And it was built in 1951, so it's got that mid-century modern charm thing going on, but it has literally been completely remodeled inside. Every single surface just about has been touched in this house, but it's maintained. That it's got two fireplaces, one upstairs and one downstairs. It's got a brand new kitchen with all new cabinets and a really cool raised up dishwasher, so you don't have to bend over to load it. I thought that was a great idea.
That's a good idea.
Great idea. All the floors are new. New appliances, really well done.
Is it a covered back deck I'm looking at?
And a covered back deck with a chandelier on
nice.
it.
So we're looking at photos as well. If you're watching the stream this morning, you can see the photos of this going along with this, and it does look beautiful.
It is beautiful. And it has an attached two-car garage with an extra little workshop area, and then a detached huge shop that is parking for two cars plus a workbench and all that kind of stuff. So and then it's got a whole complete apartment in the basement that's you would never know you were in a basement when you go down there. They've got light coming in from windows that they put in, and it's a complete apartment. It's got a one bedroom, full bath, complete kitchen, and then a living room area, and it's got its own fireplace down there as well.
So would you be able to rent that out? You
would probably have to talk to the city about approving it. For right now, it's just for family members.
Oh, sure.
But you could. It's all soundproofed. It's got its own separate electrical service. So I would think you should be able to, but I hesitate to say for sure. You'd have to talk to the zoning folks about it.
Interesting.
But yeah, it really is a gorgeous house, and the people that lived there before didn't put any window coverings on because you're protected from trees and stuff, and so the view from almost every room is spectacular.
Wow!
You've got some trees, that you're looking through, so but the trees are holding up the hillside, so you want to be a little careful with those.
Keep those around.
But you can see the mountain, you can see the bay, you can look right down onto the mill area there. So for being that close to town, and it's a little over an acre of land, that goes with it. So, and it's got a whole ton and a half of parking.
It looks like it
out, on the driveways and things. So, great big double front door going up. It's just a neat place. I really, sometimes you have listings that you kind of think, this one I really like. Yeah.
That raised dishwasher there I see in these pictures is a very interesting idea.
I had never seen that before, and I thought, well, what a great idea.
It makes total sense.
Yeah. So
you get a lot of that a lot. You walk into a place and you go,
really makes it.
I need to do that.
I need to do that. Yeah. I see that quite a bit. But the kitchen is huge, and it's again all brand new, and it's got enough cabinets to store just about everything you ever wanted. Plus, it's got a whole big cabinet set thing down at the bottom of the stairs to store other stuff. It's wired for generator.
Oh wow!
So got a lot of pluses on this one. So it's listed for $395.
Okay.
And it's 2,700 square feet. Then plus the big shop, plus an acre. So I think a really good price, and I'm anxious for people to go take a look at it.
Definitely take a look at this. All right, we'll leave these photos up rotating while we continue our conversations here.
Great.
What else do you want to talk about?
So today I thought I would talk a little bit about some home buying myths.
Oh, good. Yeah.
So yes, we tend to talk to family and friends, and sometimes they can give us great advice, and sometimes not so much. So I wanted to talk about 5 myths that people hear and kind of explain those a little bit. So the first one is that the only upfront cost to the buyer is the down payment. So that's not true, because there are several expenses that the buyer does have to pay, from fees to taxes to costs for inspections, credit reports, insurance, other things like that. So I always warn people to be prepared to pay between 3 and 4%. Usually is the cost for the buyer's closing costs.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So sometimes you can ask the seller to pay those, depending on what the situation is. But you should plan on paying up to 4% of the cost of the house.
Oh, wow.
So for a $200,000 house, you're looking at $6,000 or $8,000, between $6,000 and $8,000. So,
and this is money that will be taken out. Because we've talked about the earnest money and
right.
things like that. If you're writing checks,
right.
they're not going to be. These are going to be cash. So this money needs to be in a bank account somewhere.
Yeah, it should be. Yeah, most of them will come out, other than the cost for the inspector and those kinds of things. Most of the other expenses, like for the appraisal and the credit report and all those kinds of things, will come out at closing.
Okay.
But you'll need to have the money available somewhere to cover those costs.
Oh, okay.
So, and that again doesn't include whatever down payment you've arranged with your lender, so anywhere from 3.5% to 20%.
Sure.
So that's money above and beyond those costs.
Oh, well, that's
so,
a good myth busted.
Yes, good myth busted there. So the second one is that just looking for a house casually is not a big deal. A lot of people say, "Oh, I just want to drive around and look and see what's available."
Okay.
Well, that becomes a little bit dangerous if you're serious about finding a house, because what can happen is you start driving around, you find a place that you love, you have no idea what it costs.
Right.
You have no idea what you're approved for. A lot of times you're just kind of driving around. Well, you set yourself up for some heartache.
Yeah.
There, if you find a house that you absolutely fall in love with and find it out that it's twice what you can afford, those kinds of things. So, I mean, of course, I'm going to say that it's a good idea to come and talk to a realtor, but in this case, it really is to sit down and say, okay, this is what I'm looking for. This is what I can afford, because I've already been to my lender and I know what my limits are. So you're only going to be looking at places that you can actually potentially buy.
I love on the show Property Brothers.
Yeah.
They take the folks to the house of their dreams or
right.
whatever. And they're looking around, and the family's like, "Yep, this is exactly
perfect.
what I'm looking for." What's the price? Oh, $1.3 million.
Right, exactly.
What? Why didn't you tell me that before we came here?
I know.
Oh my God.
I always think that's a little cruel to do that.
A little.
But it is. So a lot of people think that they can just go out and just start looking.
Uh-huh.
And in theory, you probably can,
Sure.
but you have to realize that if you do that, you could be setting yourself up for some disappointment.
Yeah.
And lately, I've been having several folks who, even though they do everything right, still end up losing the house because they either get outbid or, it's already gone by the time they get a chance to go see it. So, in a hot market like this, you've got to have all your ducks in a row and be ready to go. Yeah. So that's another
That's a good one.
partial myth. Anyway.
And plus, once you kind of start, and I would imagine this is kind of with anything, if you get the idea in your head,
right,
it's hard to then put that idea away.
Exactly.
I mean, if you think, well, we're looking for a house, probably good to buy a house, then it's already, the wheels are in motion.
The wheels are turning, yes. So you need to make sure that the wheels are going in the right direction. Yeah. So, okay, so the third one is you must have a 20% down payment. A lot of people think that 20% is nice, because what that does is that saves you extra mortgage insurance if you can pay 20% down. But a lot of times people don't have that 20%, but there are lots and lots of different programs out there, from 0 down to 3.5% down for an FHA loan to 10% down is certainly an acceptable amount. So you just again have to talk to your lender and figure out what you can afford and what you want to do. I mean, if you want to tie your money up as a down payment, then that's great. If you don't, if you want some liquid cash, then you can maybe negotiate a smaller down payment with your lender and still be able to afford the house.
Yeah.
So, and afford any repairs that you might want to do, those kinds of things. So you have to go through all of those. And that's why we've talked from day one that your first step is to go and talk to a lender and find out what you can afford.
Yeah.
So, and you take all those things into account. So the next one is, and this is an interesting one, that school shouldn't matter if you don't have kids. Well, you need to take a look at the neighborhood that you're buying the house in, and the neighborhood includes things like schools.
Mm-hmm.
So you really want to, even if you don't have kids, pay attention to that neighborhood as a complete entity, including schools and shopping and any of those other things that might be important to you. And a neighborhood with good schools is usually a neighborhood that takes pride in itself, is progressive, and looks to the future, those kinds of things.
Yeah.
All the kinds of things that you would want in a neighborhood that you're living, whether or not you have kids.
Right.
So, yeah.
That's an interesting one.
Yeah. So, and also you need to consider, if you're going to want to sell that house at some point, schools, again, are going to be important because the people who buy it may have kids.
Yeah.
So you want to consider those kinds of things.
It would seem like it's more beneficial to have a good school or a decent school in your area versus not.
Exactly.
As a selling point.
As a selling point, absolutely. You just increase the number of folks that potentially could
you
look at
see those rankings on the sites,
Right.
the schools get these grades and you're in this district. Otherwise, why would they even put that in there?
Right. And that is always a part of any listing that we put in is what school district is this in? What's the school district, what's the middle school, what's the elementary school, what's the high school, those kinds of, So it is important whether or not you have kids. So, and then the last one is, and this is an interesting one, I go around and round with this all the time, and that is that you don't need a home inspection. I always, always, always recommend that folks get a home inspection for whatever, whether they're a contractor or not, because somebody else, another set of eyes, is going to see some things that you might not, even if you really know what you're looking for.
You walk in with your rose-tinted glasses.
Exactly.
This is the house of my dreams.
Exactly.
There's obviously nothing wrong with this
That's
place.
right. Until you crawl underneath.
Exactly.
And find out, oh gosh.
There's a lot.
So it's kind of a difficult one sometimes when people are on a really tight budget, because you can expect to pay anywhere between $350 to $500 or even more dollars for a licensed home inspector, but it's like an insurance policy in my mind, that you have somebody who is licensed, who's trained, who knows independent, who knows what they're looking for, and they give you sometimes a 40 or 50 page report on all the things that they see. Now, some of those things aren't going to be major issues, but some of them might be.
Yeah.
And so you have to take that, I think, in my opinion anyway, take that opportunity as a buyer to have that inspection done so that you have that information. Whether you use it or not is up to you. Whether you ask the seller to fix things or not is totally up to you and becomes a negotiation between you and the seller. But just to have that 40 or 50 page report of this is what I'm seeing in this house at this time is invaluable.
Yeah.
I've had different buyers take that report even after they've bought the house and keep it and start going down those items.
I was just going to say, I've done that with mine after getting the inspection.
Right.
If I have a free weekend.
Right.
Look and see, is there something here that maybe I can do some preemptive something?
I can address this issue before it becomes a
bigger one.
Yeah. So it's always a good idea to do that. And I have several inspectors that I've used over the years that are very trustworthy. Again, they're all licensed. And remember, too, that the buyer's agent is going to be there as well, because they have to let the inspector into the house.
Sure.
So it's a good idea if the buyer can be there as well. But if you can't, if you're out of state or whatever, your agent will be there and can relay some things to you that maybe the inspector says. Because usually the inspector will do their thing, their inspection, and then they will walk through different things with either the buyer's agent or the buyer and point out, okay, this is what I'm talking about here, or this is why this could be a problem, those kinds of things. So
how can folks get in touch with you? You have an extra hour on Sunday to show even more houses.
That's right. Yeah, I'd love to show houses to folks on Sunday with my extra hour. After I sleep in, of course.
How can they do that? What's the phone number?
They can call me at 490-4493, or they can stop by and see me at the John L. Scott office on the corner of 3rd and Railroad. Or again, if I'm not there, the folks at the office will know where I am and how to get in touch with me. So I would love to go show you this place on Olympic Highway.
Yeah, looks nice.
Or go take a look at another house. Or if you're interested in listing your house, I'd be happy to talk to you.
Don Pannell from John L. Scott here in Shelton for another episode of Riveting Radio Real Estate. Thank you much. Have a great weekend.
Thank you. You too.